Hi, I'm Tammy Beilstein. Welcome to Tammy's Window on Calaveras. I'm so happy to have with me tonight Jim Miller. He is an educator in Calaveras County. I bet most everyone knows who he is or has been taught by him or had some sort of interaction with him. He's involved in so many different areas of our community. And you are always so interesting. What do we want to talk about tonight? Because just about whatever it is, I know I'm going to love it.
Tammy, figure out a title real quick and we'll talk about it. I don't know. This year's been interesting as an educator, right?
Yes.
And I hope we never have it again.
Right.
You know, the kids that I deal with are back in harness a little bit, and I don't mean in a bad way, but they're back into somewhat semblance of reality and normalness, but they don't have much interest in the future.
Oh.
Which is, that bothers me.
What age of kids are we talking about?
Seniors in high school, 17
Okay.
and 18, right? And they're all like, well, I don't know what I'm going to do. It doesn't matter.
Oh.
You know? And it's like, yes, it does. Right?
Right.
So we keep brainwashing them to think that it's going to be okay. You know? But trying to teach on a Zoom meeting, it's impossible.
Right.
And have you ever been in a meeting that you really didn't think was important?
Yeah.
And you wind up sort of counting the ceiling tiles.
Right.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
And you're an adult who knows what you should be doing.
Right.
Right? So the Zoom meetings, they're kind of funny, but in a sad way.
Right.
You know, because kids just don't learn. And I was telling Ed a minute ago that a professor of mine used to say the learning is within the human relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have a human relationship, you're not going to learn. And people say, well, what about learning on a computer? Somebody had to turn you on to it. You know?
Yeah, true, yeah.
So the kids being off campus was really hard on them. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they're real excited to be back, but again, they're just back. It's right in the now, right now,
Yeah.
and no future, which is
Yeah.
terrible.
It is terrible. I guess what you're saying, that even as an adult, I did not like the Zoom meetings. I'm more of a people person.
Right.
And doing something through the computer is just so cold, and it's it just does not feel right. And I was heartbroken when, remember months ago, the kids were going to go back to school for just a short period of time. They were told to stay home again. That was such a tease, and I heard from so many kids who, in a way, it was almost worse than not going back at all. Because I think it made them afraid to look forward to when they can go back again, because who knows? Like, we thought it was over and we were going back to school, and then we weren't.
And there's no connection. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's like we also dealt with snow days,
Uh-huh.
right? So we're out for 2 or 3 days, even when we could be in. But this is over in Sonora,
Okay.
so you can't rely on anything.
Mhm.
So.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, we had fires, and so it was a thing of where we may or we may not each day come back.
Yeah.
And it's tough to get kids to buy into that,
Right,
you know,
right.
and parents too.
Yeah.
I don't blame them, you know. But you know what? They're all going to do okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
or I'm going to kill them. No problem, you know.
So these kids that were seniors this
Yeah.
year during all of this COVID, you don't have much time left to get them excited about their future. What are you
No, well,
going to do?
we've been in for the whole second semester.
Okay.
All right, but with that, as I said, snow days and all this stuff, just kept everybody on pins and needles
Right.
whether they were going to come in or not.
Yeah.
You know, and so before long, it's like, why prepare? We might not go in.
Right.
You know, so it was a thing. Call the school in the morning and see if we're here. Right, and I just felt sorry for them. Also
Yeah.
felt sorry for me. You know?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm so bad, Tammy, that one day I drive over to school, and it was a day that it was the second day, so it was really where the school is in Sonora. There's no snow, but it's up the
Okay.
hill if they close it. And I'm such a creature of habit. I drove up to the school, and I looked in the parking lot. Nobody was there.
Right.
And I thought, well, where's everybody? Well, it just happened to be a holiday.
Oh.
You know, so when I was at Calaveras High School, I had a wonderful aide that would tell me on Friday, don't come in on Monday if it was a weekend, if it was a holiday.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, I'm boring. I know I'm going to do the same routine all the time.
Right, right.
So But,
it's nice to know what to expect, though, and to know what's coming.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I know with kids is they want certainty. They are the most conservative age group in the country.
Really?
Yeah, because they want everything to stay the same.
Yeah.
So they can screw around.
Oh,
You know?
exactly.
They don't want to deal with things like, parents getting divorced or death or anything like that.
Right.
So they're very conservative. And of course they talk about how they aren't.
Yeah.
But when you drill down a little bit, they want everything to stay the same.
Oh, wow.
And they want to be in that same mood and mode when they get older.
Yeah.
Yeah. But of course they're going to be different.
Yeah, it'll be different.
Everybody's going to be different, right? So I don't know. The whole thing with all the kids that I deal with they're actually really good. Mm-hmm. And I keep in touch with a ton of them. Good. In fact, this is embarrassing. I got an invitation to a retirement party, right?
Yeah.
And I'm looking at it, and it's on Facebook or whatever. I'm looking at it. Geez, I don't recognize this. And all of a sudden I remembered it was a kid I had the first year I taught in Australia.
Oh my gosh.
Who was retiring at the ripe old age of 69.
Oh my gosh. I was going to say, don't tell me it was one of your students.
Yeah. And
wow.
So if you're under 70 or you're 70, you could have been my kid.
Oh my gosh.
And I'll tell you one that I really get a kick out of. We had a kid at Calaveras High School who scared everybody. Okay. He liked to wear leather and chains and all this stuff, long hair. And but he's really an intelligent kid.
Right.
So we got him out of that, and I kept telling him, if you're trying to hide from people, hide in plain sight. Look like them, don't look different. Right? So he finally got that. And last year he called up to see what I was doing. And I said, we're burning brush and stuff because of the fires. He said, would you like some help? Come on down. Mm-hmm. So he lives in Elk Grove. And he came, and the fellow that I was working with said, can you invite somebody to come down here? The guy's going to throw one stick of wood into the trailer, and he's going to want to socialize.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
So the kid comes, and he works like a devil.
Wow.
He's really on top of it, right? So he left, and the other fellow said, hey, that kid knows how to work. Mm-hmm. So later on, I called him up. His name's Clint, and I said, hey, Clint, you got a heck of an endorsement from Bill. And he said, what's that? He said, you're a heck of a worker. He said, I'm not a heck of a worker. I just wasn't going to let a bunch of 70-year-olds outwork me. I said, funny as it can be, I wasn't going to let a 37-year-old outwork me either. So when they left, I waved them goodbye, and I was asleep about 5 minutes later.
Oh, sure.
So, tell you what, anyway, by holding on to those kids and keeping in touch with them, it's really fun to watch. You know? And the thing that I wish other teachers would do this, they can't really, but I take their pictures every year when they first mm-hmm. come to school. I just put them up on a wall. There's no order to it. There's the kids. Some of them are, it isn't posed. It's just whatever, so they can come back and see themselves. And the other one to get them to come back is I make them write papers every year or all year about what they think about, what they believe in, and how they envision things. I put them in a big envelope, and I tell them don't open it for 10 years. Because in 10 years, you're going to be a different person.
Yeah,
right?
I love that idea.
Yeah, it's a great one. And one fellow came, two, this mother comes, and she's got kids that are 10 years old, right? And she finally sees her picture. She basically knew where it was. And her kids looked at it. It's not you, Mom. She's not fat.
Oh.
It was a little embarrassing for her, right? But another fellow came back from years ago, and he said that when he opened that envelope, he got a greater understanding of his own kid.
Oh, right.
Because we tend to forget.
Yeah, you're right.
And we think that somehow or other we have evolved and they aren't.
Right.
There's still these people that just don't make sense.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I was standing around with some teachers, and a couple of kids were screwing around. They were both like, God, look at those guys screwing around. I said, what'd you do when you were a kid? Screw around.
Yeah.
I said, then what are you capping on them for?
Yeah,
right?
that's
said,
right.
Right.
That's
because
right.
they're just somewhat younger versions of us.
Yeah.
And I was the worst when I was younger, so it's real easy to work with kids that are worse.
Yeah. You know what's weird, though, also about the 10-year thing, going back 10 years, is there are some things, some parts of me that I know have not changed.
Right.
The things I'm interested in and that sort of thing. And it's weird to think in my head I am basically the same person in a lot of ways. The rest of me is getting older, and my brain is basically the same in my heart, You know
what? Take it from me, you got a long way to go. my standard answer now when anybody asks me how I am, I say I'm old.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
it's like, I better answer your question.
All you gotta
right?
say, yeah.
Why do you want to hear about my this and that, right? So
yeah.
it's, you know what, you gotta live till you die.
Yeah.
You know,
Love that, yeah.
I went to a 50th reunion.
Mm-hmm.
I was in a hotel that had a number of ballrooms, right? And I looked in one, and there was a wedding going on in there. That's not. I looked in the next one. I said, "Oh, those are all old people." As I go to shut the door, they go, "Miller."
Oh.
You know, it's like, you know, and it's like, geez, I don't belong in there.
Oh,
right?
gosh.
But I do, obviously.
Yeah,
you know.
buddy.
But I'm really lucky. I get to keep doing what I like to do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I tell my kids that the last lesson plan they're going to deal with is, what do you do with your dead teacher? You know, when he drops dead in the
Hey,
class.
I can help them with that
There
one.
you go. It's like, you know, I'm going to do this forever. It's
Yeah.
here's one that just shocked me that came out of my mouth. One of the people that I know in a long time, I said, why do you keep teaching? And what popped out of my mouth without any thought was, where else can you go and see a different genre of movie and get paid?
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
Because we have drama, we have light comedy, we've got everything you could ask for, right?
Right.
So why would you not want to be there?
Oh my
You know?
gosh.
And I don't like what I see in my friends who have retired, you know, especially the golfers. They all know that they would beat Tiger Woods or Jack Nicklaus if they just had more time.
Right.
You know? Well, 6 months into retirement, they realize that's never
No.
going to happen.
No.
And they quit,
Yeah.
you know, because they don't have that.
And then what, huh?
Exactly, that's the problem. Then you go live near your grandchildren.
Right.
Who don't want a heck of a lot to do with you most of the time, right?
Because you're old.
You're old. And your kids are saying, leave me alone, don't tell me how to raise my kids, right?
Right.
Anyway, life is fun.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And the thing that I see with the kids I've got is if you can get them to where they're aware of, I'll ask you a question, it's on the same thing. What are the 3 things you'll learn in school that nobody tells you you're learning?
Oh. I'm guessing how to get along with others and
That's the 3rd one.
making a schedule and keeping to
That's
it.
the 2nd one.
What would be the first one?
Don't be late,
Oh.
all right?
Oh, see, I've never really learned that.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
the problem.
That's why they had tardy bells, you know?
Okay.
And it wasn't to get you to class sometime, it was, from my way of thinking, it's to train you to show up where you're supposed to be on time.
Yeah.
right? And the 2nd one, it's like people give you a short-term assignment, long-term
Yeah.
assignment. You get this one done because it's in class.
Uh-huh.
This one doesn't get done,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So you get fired.
Right.
Huh?
Right.
And then, and then the one I always ask is, do you ever have a teacher you don't get along with? Absolutely, everyone has
Yeah.
that, right? I said, the best teacher you're ever going to have. How come? I said, well, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to flunk the class? Are you going to be disruptive? What are you going to do? Some of them say, I'm going to quit. I said, okay. But really what you're going to learn to do is to get along with them, you know, and at least cover yourself by taking care of business.
Yeah.
And the moment kids hear that, it's like all of a sudden things make a little more sense because nobody tells you that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And the thing with my kids, it's like you got a long way to go, and you better be open to the fact that you might have a crummy supervisor in a job that you really want.
True.
You know?
Yeah.
Because if you can't, you'll quit or you'll get fired.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So.
You know what else I learned is I went to a Catholic school my whole life growing up. And I had a lot of things going on at home. Most everybody who watches the show would know that I was being molested at home.
Oh.
And my parents stayed married till I was 20, so it was a long, long time. But people didn't talk about that sort of thing back then.
No.
And we had a principal, her name was Sister Monica, and I never told her what was happening, but I think she just felt that something wasn't right, and that maybe there was a sadness about me, or a stress, or worry, or something about me. We never talked about it. But what she would do is there was a little cot in the back for the nurse's room, and a little refrigerator. And she would buy these little orange juices and apple juices. I don't know if you remember them. They had a colored top on them that you would just pop off. And she'd have those back there for me, and maybe just some little crackers and things. And so if I was like just dead tired in class because I tried to stay up all night, she'd let me go and take a little nap in the back room and offer me an orange juice and an apple juice. And I really think that she helped shape who I became. I love taking care of people. if I find that someone has something really stressful or horrible going on that they don't want to talk about, I'm like, you can talk to me about this. We'll work this out. And I think it is because of her, and it's funny because, like I said, we never spoke about it, but she was there.
That's the word.
Yeah, she was there.
And the learning is within the human relationship.
Absolutely.
I got to ask you a question. Were you ever intimidated when you were in Catholic school? You're pretty young. They might not be doing what they used to do.
No, we had a male teacher who was intimidating, yes.
I have a friend that was saying how she went from kindergarten on, even through college, Catholic schools, right?
Yeah.
And she said, boy, I was intimidated every day. I was on the verge of tears every day.
Aww.
And people are saying, oh, that's too bad. She says, no, it's not. I'm really well educated.
Oh, yeah.
Because we've gotten to the point where we don't expect anybody to be the leaders for kids.
Right.
Yeah. And it's like, you know what? You got to be something that they're attracted to, and that they believe in, and that they actually have some respect based on a little bit of worrying about fear.
Yeah.
It's like, what's she going to do to me if I don't do it right?
Right.
And the thing that we've gotten to is it's like, well, now the kid has every right in the world, right? And they know it.
Yeah.
And so you're basically trying to seduce them into believing in you without any ability to be a power.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
I think there's a difference though between fear and respect, but I think it is difficult to respect someone unless you feel that they have a backbone and they will stand up for you and that they're a go-to person.
And what you said was perfect when you said she was there for you.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what we don't get to do much anymore.
Yeah.
Don't pat them on the back, don't do this, don't do that, right? So I figure at my age I'll get fired any one of these days because I break every one of those rules. It's like, you know what? You need an arm around you because you're not feeling good, you got it.
Yeah.
Right? Fire me.
Yeah.
What do I care? I'm retired.
I think it's almost evil, the way things are going and this distance between everyone. It's so wrong. I have a grief program over at hospice. It's called Griefbusters. And since before COVID, we were not all huggy and lovey-dovey with the kids, but we could sit there next to them and hold their hands, and if they are crying, give them a hug or put our arm around them. We're talking to, like an 8-year-old whose mother was just killed in a car accident. How do you not? Well, since COVID and all these different rules, there are schools that would like us to sit 6 feet apart from each other, with a table in between us, or maybe even a mask on. And it's just so wrong. It feels evil to me to
interesting word, choice of words there. Yeah. It's not very nice. It's not fun, and the trick
what's going to happen to these kids?
Well, hopefully, I'll tell you what, everybody I've ever worked with that people thought were never going to make it, they've all pretty much made it.
Yeah,
there was a friend of mine works at Calaveras still, and last year a kid came up and asked if he knew this guy's name. And he said, yeah, I remember him. He was absolutely out of control, wild guy, right? And he was. And he said, why? What do you know about him? He said, well, he's my father, and he's as strict and mean as anybody I've ever met, right? And I was like, oh, good, there's a payoff for that one, right? And the thing that I keep seeing all the time is that, if people get the right start, even if they don't know it's the right start, but if they believe in the fact that they can learn, they might not choose to, but if they know they can, that's much better than believing they're dumb.
Right.
And I gotta get mad at that when people say that they're dumb or they're stupid. It's like, no, I'm dumb. And like, well, how can you be dumb? Because I don't know everything in the world, so I must be dumb too.
Yeah.
Right? And then they finally give in to you, and what you watch for is their handwriting, which we don't teach cursive writing anymore. Right? We're starting to again.
Oh, are we?
Yeah.
Good. Okay.
And I'll give you one before I tell you the rest of that. The Navy has been using GPS for navigation, right? And they've been doing that for years. The problem is that nobody ever thought about the idea, what if they run out of electricity on a ship?
Oh.
So now they're back to teaching semaphore, whatever, the navigations, with a sextant and a compass. And because imagine if something hit your boat and it took out your electronic stuff, where are you going to go?
Right.
So now if I can remember what I broke into to say
about the handwriting?
Yes. Okay, thank you. When a kid starts to believe in himself, his handwriting starts to change and becomes more legible and more conforming to the rules of writing.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. And when you see that, you don't want to comment on it, but you want to be aware of it.
Okay.
Right? Because they're showing more pride in their work. And the thing I keep telling them is, hey, what you leave behind on paper is the only thing anybody's going to know about you, right? And that doesn't do the motivation thing, but it does help them understand that, you know what, you are how you present yourself, even in writing. So you'll see these guys change their writing to the point where it looks good. You know?
That's interesting.
Yeah, because I got tired of reading other people's papers that I had to turn it upside down and around and try to figure out what it is. Yeah. So that's the one of them, and it's like...
Well, either that or they become doctors.
Yeah, right. You're right, you know, and then they give you the wrong medication. But the thing with handwriting and all that, what happens is once a kid starts to do well in school, a fun thing happens. The rest of his life gets better organized, right? For instance, you know, you're complaining about your kid in the room. When he starts to do better in school, a funny thing happens to his room. It starts to get organized, right?
Nice.
So his whole life changes. And for a kid, think about how much time of his life is spent in school. You know? And if it isn't going well, why would anything else go well, right? And the thing that kids do, there's 4 stages of life: childhood, adolescence, adulthood, and old age. Adolescence, the word was only reused starting in 1900, because before that, you maybe went through 6th or 8th grade. I've got my father's 6th grade textbook, math textbook from my own elementary school.
Oh my goodness.
And it's, when I took it to school over here, they laughed. They said kids couldn't do it.
Oh.
Because they had to deal with insurance, contracts, partnerships, all of these things.
Amazing.
That was going to be the only time they were going to get that information, right?
I wish they still did that.
And so do I. But what we did instead was we were very generous about offering them 4 more years of education, which they didn't want, because they wanted to go out like everybody else before them at 15 and 14 and be a man and be a woman, and
start working.
You know, you're going to have your first kid really early on. So the thing that we don't realize is that this is the worst time of a kid's life, is adolescence. But what do we tell them?
Well, this is the best time?
This is the best time. You have no responsibilities. You're just going to go to school, right? And unfortunately, we don't clue them in that this really is the toughest time of your life, right? And so I do a thing with them. This is what I'll tell you anyway. I do a thing with them. They said, well, I don't get it. What's the deal? I said, well, you got a date with that girl or that boy that you've been eyeballing for 6 months, and you finally are going to hang out with him or her, whatever it is. And I said, and you're pretty happy, aren't you? Yeah. Okay. You wake up Saturday morning because you're going to hang out that day with him. Pretty happy? Yeah. I said, now you go and you look in the bathroom mirror, and there's a golf ball sized whitehead on the end of your nose. How's life now? I wouldn't go out. I'm devastated. I can't do it, right? I said, well, you know what happens if I do that? I go, got to go to work. And if anybody asks about the big red spot, I'm going to say, you should have seen the size of it.
Right.
And those are the things that they get worried about. And so what happens is when they ask people at the end of their lives to rank those 4 stages, adulthood comes up number 1, old age number 2, which I'm happy to see, and 3rd is childhood, universally last is adolescence. And one kid came to me after we were talking about that, and he said, you know, I'm really glad you said that. And I said, why? He said, because I'm absolutely incredibly unhappy and depressed, and everybody tells me this is the best time of my life. So what do I have to look forward to?
I so get that. That's exactly how I was.
You know, it's pretty common for all of us, because when you get, you know, you're 17 or 18 and you think that you're almost ready. I had to be 21, so the law changed in 75. You had to be 21 to be an adult, right? So you get people who are supposed to be ready, and they look at what adults can do, and they know they can't do it. You know, either could the adults when they first started out, but poor kids see people doing things, remembering things. That's one of the best. You know? And then because you say, how do you remember that? He just does it. You know, and so I feel really. I don't feel sorry for kids. They're here, and we've got to make them better. That's the whole idea. And you know what? As I said before, most of them come up better in the long run. You know, and the thing that's really good. Like, I want to ask you about Catholic school. Where did you grow up?
Stockton.
Okay. What school?
Presentation, and then St. Mary's.
Okay, St. Mary's I've heard of, Uniforms?
Yes.
Yeah. Tell me about uniforms. Did you like them or dislike them? Or?
I did not like them, but I would change them wherever I could. We had the uniform. We had to wear the same shirts, the same plaid skirts, shoes that laced up, but they didn't say much about the socks, and so I would wear wild socks. I had a pair that had googly eyes on them, about this big in the front, and then a puffball nose, and I would wear them just because they didn't say I couldn't wear them.
Yep. Very typical normal kid, right? I'll tell you what, I'd love to see uniforms come back.
Yeah, you know what, now that I'm older, I have a uniform I can wear for hospice.
Right.
I don't have to wear it, but I like to wear it. I like to represent our agency, and I like knowing that for the week I need to have this many shirts clean, and they're right over here, and it's much easier, and we all look alike. Yeah.
It brings a group of people together.
Yeah.
The kids that I had in Australia, everybody wore uniforms, and the girls liked it, especially because they didn't have to spend much money on the uniform, so it kept more money that they earned or whatever for the clothes they wore on the weekend.
Yeah.
Right. And the other thing was, if I had to compete with everybody all week long, I'd be broke.
Right.
And my thing with uniforms is it takes all the pressure off of each other. You don't have to. You're not comparing yourself to each other. You know. And once you get that one, you can now deal with some more things.
Yeah.
So
I didn't appreciate it when I was younger. I was a little bit rebellious in that way. Not in a bad way. Like, that's the most rebellious I got. I've never done drugs or drink or anything. I've never said a bad word, Jim. I've never said the F word or anything, the SH word. I've never said those things because I don't want to sin.
Right.
But I can wear wild socks, and so I did.
Yeah, it's a different form of rebellion.
Yeah, right? The good girl square rebellion. That's what it was.
I have a real difficult time with kids that are totally squared away because I don't think they're totally squared away underneath.
No.
And yet there isn't any way you're going to get to underneath with those kids. They don't even need teachers. They're already programmed to take care of business, right? So that's why I always like the guys that are having trouble.
Yeah.
They're more fun. And they begin to, like I said about handwriting and all that, nothing beats watching a kid change his life.
Yeah.
I had one kid, real quick, I had one kid that when he came to school, he couldn't read as a ninth grader. After a while, he wanted to read the thing, Hooked on Phonics. It was an ad, advertising all the time.
I remember that.
Did the whole thing, kicked him out of special ed. He went into regular classes. He came back mad at me. I said, what's the matter? He said, in science, I'm the only one the teacher asks to read because I'm the only one that can pronounce all the scientific names, right? It's like, okay, well, be mad at me, good for you. And he went from that, goes into the Air Force, and he had a job at a machine shop, and he goes into the Air Force, and he fabricates airplanes.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's amazing. You've made such a difference in so many people's lives.
They make a difference in my life.
Well, I'm so happy to know you. Please come back again. We touched just a little bit on this whole last school year and COVID and all that. We can talk about that more. I mean, we're going to have more things come up, so please come back.
You got it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time on Tammy's Window on Calaveras.